Hey folks, welcome to 54 Nights RV, where you will find a lot of RV adventure type stuff like hiking, paddleboarding, a little bit of our mountain bikes, just some of our destinations, national parks. You also find some RV walkthroughs, and you'll find a little bit of information about stuff like today's topic, our Atwood on-demand hot water heater. Okay, so I've had to deal with this thing for a year and a half, and it's been fun. Okay, fun's probably not the right word for it. It's been an adventure, and I couldn't find any resources online for it, and as a matter of fact, the owner's manual, if you can call it that, doesn't tell you anything about it really. And on-demand hot water heaters are not intuitive, and they're not you know, when you have a normal hot water heater, you turn on the hot water, you turn on a little bit of cold water, and you got yourself a nice warm shower. It's really not how this Atwood on-demand hot water heater works. And it took us over a year to figure out how it works. So what I'm going to try to do today is share with you some of the things I've learned. And you know, if you've learned anything more than what I'm getting ready to tell you, please leave it in the comments below, because I don't like this thing. If I was shopping for a motorhome again and it had an on-demand Atwood hot water heater in it, I would have them swap it out for something different before I bought the RV. I mean, that's just the way it is. This thing, we have it where it functions more consistently than it had in the past, but it's still not something that I would want. It's not something I would go out and buy. As a matter of fact, I think I would rather have a 6 or a 10 gallon hot water heater than this Atwood on-demand water heater. So anyway, without much further talk, let's dig into this. I mean, of course, one of my first complaints about this hot water heater, and it may not have anything at all to do with Atwood, it may be totally Fleetwood, and it's something I can remedy. I've just been a little lazy to do it. But to get to this hot water heater from the outside, I've got to have a tool of some type. I've got to use a screwdriver, or in this case, a quarter, to open up the access panel to this. And as you can probably see, the paint's come off that screw. I just need to put a wing nut on it and be done with it, really. But there's a reason I've got to bust into this thing. You see, one of the things, you know, there's three things that influence the ability for this hot water heater to function. And one of those things has to do with ambient temperature. And every time I pull this thing off, I have to go hunt down pieces of the door. So yeah. Anyway, one of the influences on whether or not you're going to get hot water is ambient temperature, water temperature. So like if it's, you know, it's 90 degrees outside today, so the water temperature is going to be not real cold. You know, it's still coming out of the ground, but it's not going to be ice cold. and if it's been in the hose for a while, it's actually going to be a little warm or even hot. But you have to, you know, in the fall or the winter, which is when Terry and I do a lot of our camping, adjustments have to be made. Now, I'm going to turn this away from me, show you this. That big old red thing right there, that is the modulator valve. And this dial, this adjustment right here, that is where you can adjust it for the ambient temperature. Now, factory setting is right there, and that works on, you know, when the outside temp is between, I don't know, 70 and 90, somewhere in there, that works all right. But most of the time I have it cranked up to the max, and that's where it has to be during cold weather. And if it dips below 40 degrees, it's hit or miss on water temperature. So really, it's got to be north of 35-40 degrees for this hot water heater to work. It's just how it is. But you know, I have to make these adjustments on the modulating valve according to the air temperature. You know, I only have to do it, well, I live in Oklahoma, so temperature fluctuates big time in the fall and the spring. So, you know, sometimes I have to come out here because it's 40 degrees one weekend. Well, the next weekend it could be 70 degrees, or the next day for that matter. But that modulator valve is where you adjust it, you know, straight up and down, and for the colder weather. Then, you know, factory setting is for, you know, moderate weather, and I guess way down low is for when it's real hot outside, but it doesn't work way down low. It doesn't matter how hot it is out here. So that's been my experience with it, but it took me a while to figure that one out. Second thing that influences whether this hot water heater is going to function is incoming water pressure. I have found, and apparently I'm not the only one that's found this, if you go below 50 psi of incoming water pressure, it's just not going to work. You're not going to get hot water. You'll be taking cold showers. You know, and the thing is, most RVers are going to have one of these in their toolkit, and it's just a cheap little Camco pressure regulator. And this thing is rated between 40 and 50 psi, which is not enough pressure to kick on the burners on your hot water heater, or on this tankless hot water heater. So what I would suggest is something like this. It's got an adjustable pressure on it, and it has the gauge, so you can see how much pressure you're putting in. I've got mine set at 60 psi, and on our last big trip out to Moab, we stopped at a campground in New Mexico, and the incoming water pressure was, I think it capped out about 35 psi. There were no hot showers that night in the camper. So get you one of these regulators so that you can adjust it and make sure. And you know, there wasn't any way for us to increase the pressure, but I knew at a glance when I hooked the water up and turned the water on, I knew that we weren't going to be getting hot showers that night. So it's very helpful to have this thing. And the third thing that can impact whether or not you're taking a shower with ice cubes or a nice steamy hot shower. Oh, did you notice my shirt changed? Yeah, when I videoed this section yesterday, I was moving around a lot and the camera was moving. I figured I'd save you guys the seasickness. But the third thing that can impact your shower water temperature with these Atwood on-demand hot water heater is the flow, the outgoing flow of the water. Gallons per minute. Don't make the mistake of thinking that just because you have a shower head or a sink faucet that gives you the prescribed flow rate, which by the way Atwood calls for 1 to 1.25 gallons per minute of flow rate. Don't make the mistake of thinking just because your faucet's labeled that means that's what you're going to get, because you have two inputs or two outputs, I'm sorry. You have your hot water and you have your cold water. So when you turn your hot water on, and with these on-demand water heaters, you crank your hot water all the way up, and then you make your adjustments with the cold water to bring it to temp. Not at all like what you do at the house. But so you have your hot water cranked all the way up. You're getting, you know, that one side, and you're getting the gallons per minute from that one side. Now you go and you turn on your cold water. You've just decreased the flow rate coming out of the hot water heater because you're turning on your cold water, which is taking up some of that gallons per minute output at the faucet. You follow me here? I hope so, because I don't know how else to explain it. So you crank on your hot water heater or your hot water all the way in the shower, and then you go to adjust your cold water. Well, if you turn that cold water on too fast, what happens is you've taken that 1.25 gallons per minute and you crank on that cold water real fast. Well, that 1.25 is still coming out of your faucet, but you've taken that 1.25 exiting your water heater and decreased it down below 1 gallon per minute. So the burner kicks off on the hot water heater. So in just a quick second, you're developing icicles on your goatee. And so far, from my experience, the only way I've found to reset that is to turn all the water off and try again. Real convenient. That's, you know, from giving too fast of input from the cold water. The other influence is when you turn the cold water on slowly. And I mean, that's the way you need to do it, is just turn it on slowly, a little bit at a time, bumping it up until you get that water temperature that you want. But if you go too far with that cold water, occasionally it'll have the same effect. It'll kill the burner on the hot water heater because you've gone below that gallons per minute mark. And then you have to turn everything off, start all over again. Once you get used to it and you kind of figure out there's a certain spot, you know, of course it all changes with ambient temperature, but you turn it slowly until you get that temperature and you stop and it's all good and you have you a nice shower. that's after you figure it all out. Try explaining that to your visitors. And the kicker is, you know, one of the selling points behind a hot water heat behind a tankless hot water heater is you're saving water. No, you're using just as much, if not more, water as you do when you have a tank style water heater, just because of trying to get everything just right for you. Myself, water temperature, you know, yeah, I like warm showers, but if it comes out cold, it'll be that much faster. You know, a lot of people though, you know, they step into the shower and that's their time to decompress and relax, and you really don't want to mess around with playing with the knobs for 5 minutes. And if you're boondocking, you're putting more and more water into your gray tank than what you wanted to, and drawing more water out of your fresh water tank than you wanted to, so it all just comes a big mess. So anyway, those are the 3 things that influence your shower comfort. So, to review, three things can influence whether or not you get hot water in the shower. First one is ambient temperature, water temperature, which you can adjust for to a point on that modulating valve out on the water heater itself. Number 2, incoming water pressure, and that's got to be 50, 55 psi. Some people say it has to be at 55. I don't know. I mean, my regulator set at 60. So, and from what I've seen, between 50 and 60, I get a hot shower. Or better yet, she gets a hot shower, which is the most important thing. This is the only reason I've been messing with it. I don't mind cold showers. And then the third factor that can influence your shower pleasure is the flow rate of your water. 1 to 1 1/4 gallons per minute. Check for influences on that, such as kinks in the water line or trash in your line or
kinky water lines. Oh,
see, there's a reason why she hasn't been in this entire video up until this point.
Because it was boring up until this point. Go ahead, continue as you were.
Anyway, it may have been boring, but I hope it was helpful.
The kinks. You were talking about the kinks.
I don't care what I was talking about. I'm wanting you to shut up.
Also, if you don't turn on the part that says H, you know, the side that says H, you won't get hot water.
I taught her that, actually. She's laughing, but I had to tell her that. That's, like I said at the beginning, it's one of the irritating things about this water heater. It is not intuitive. When you have guests and you have to give instructions on how to take a shower, that's your first clue that this water heater was not meant for public use.
It's true.
So, anyway, hope this was helpful. If you want to see other topics about RVs and such, be sure to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, give me a thumbs up if you liked it, folks. We'll catch you down the trail. Go ahead, say bye.
I said
You barely said bye. Say bye, hi.
bye, hi, ha. She just said. And I'm only drinking water. See?
Wife for sale.